Thank you for joining me here this afternoon. The time is currently 4:52 p.m. Central, and you have a live look at an ongoing severe thunderstorm capable of producing golf ball-sized hail on the south side of Rapid City, South Dakota here. This storm has a history of producing hail potentially up to tennis ball size. I believe the National Weather Service is looking into that. But as of right now, this is a very large hailstorm, again, that could pack a punch with hail up to the size of golf balls heading towards the Hermosa area. So if you are included in these severe thunderstorm warnings here, you need to make sure that you are moving indoors and away from windows immediately. This storm is right now crossing Highway 79 in between Hermosa and Rapid City here. Again, right now, this is in kind of the extreme southern parts of the outskirts of Rapid City here. We're near the Ajax area, so if you know where this region is, again, if you're in this area, you should probably make sure that you're getting indoors and away from windows. We do have quite a bit of hail contamination with this storm, so if you see anything that looks like rotation, a lot of times actually what that is just the hail core interfering with our storm here, so just ignore a lot of that. The threat for tornadoes today is on the lower side of things. We can't completely rule one out, as the Storm Prediction Center has officially issued a 2% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any given point for portions of the Midwest here. So this includes portions of South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, and Missouri. So we'll watch out for a potential brief tornado today. But I do think that the main threat is going to be damaging winds up to 80 miles per hour across a large swath of South Dakota and Nebraska here, as we do have a hatched risk of damaging wind gusts, right? We could see kind of a MCS event here where we're going to see, potentially even hurricane force winds for a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be a huge area that sees that. I think it's going to be one or two instances of it. The hail threat for today is once again on the lower side of things, but we can't rule out some hail getting up to tennis ball size, obviously, as we've already potentially seen some of that, so we'll have to look out for that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull up stream chat, so if anybody has any questions about their location, feel free to leave those down below. I'll try to answer them accurately and honestly. But, yeah. Let me get that pulled up. Feels good to be back. We haven't been live for a couple days. One, because there's just not a lot going on, and two, because I've been busy with other stuff. But, we are here live today covering this severe weather outbreak. Soundings in Kansas look favorable for tornadoes if the conditional supercell threat develops. Yes, that's another thing. Out here in the Central Plains, it's all about if these storms form. Now, if these storms do form, we are going to have the serious potential to see destructive winds, very large hail, and even some tornadoes today. But if these storms don't ever end up firing off, which they haven't really been so far, then we're not going to see anything at all, right? If we go and take a look at some of the radar sites here across parts of Kansas and Nebraska, we can see something maybe trying to get going here in northwest Kansas. And we'll have to watch this because, again, as soon as these cells get going, they're just going to have, a very severe weather primed environment here to take advantage of. So we'll watch these storms in northwestern Kansas here. These are generally moving to the east here, kind of going to parallel Interstate 70 overall. Yes, tomorrow has a large tornado risk, not in the sense that we're going to have the potential to see large tornadoes, but the area that we could see tornadoes is quite large. So we do have a 2% risk out for tomorrow for portions of the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. I would not be surprised to see an upgrade to a 5% risk, maybe for parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky. But as of right now, it's a 2%, all right? The threat overall for tomorrow is actually greater back up in the northern plains, according to the SPC. But in my opinion, I think that the greater threat's actually down here in the Midwest, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we get a slight risk for parts of the Midwest tomorrow. I think that's pretty likely, as I think we're going to see an MCS type event here down in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley region tomorrow. But we're going to have to watch for the secondary threat here in the northern plains, where we could see some damaging winds and large hail for sure. One thing to note is that we do have a hatched hail risk for tomorrow in the northern plains, so we'll have to watch out for that. And actually going all the way out into Tuesday, we could see another MCS type event. We have over 30 million people under a marginal risk of severe weather already for Tuesday, which is crazy. But, yeah. So anyway, let's go ahead and zoom back in on our Rapid City storm. So again, this storm right now is capable of producing hail up to the size of ping pong balls. So, if you know how big a ping pong ball is, just a standard one, that's kind of what we're talking about here. And that's enough to shatter windows, crack windshields. So again, if you have any vehicles outdoors or pets outdoors and you're ahead of this thing, it may be a good idea to bring those inside, like in Hermosa or in Red Shirt, or to the north of Red Shirt. I generally think that this storm is kind of heading off to the southeast here. It's going to kind of parallel Highway 40 here, just the north. It's going to near Flat Top Butte. Again, right now it's over Ajax. It'll continue to head southeast here towards Red Shirt. And if it lasts long enough, maybe even all the way down to Kyle. With some severe threats, particularly hail. Damaging winds are not a huge threat with this storm, but we can't rule out isolated damaging winds up to 60 miles an hour with this. Again, tornado threat overall is very low. This storm is mainly outflow dominant, it looks like. We do have a very large severe thunderstorm warning polygon here in southeastern Wyoming. We are seeing, again, some sporadic severe storms across portions of, not really the Rockies, but the mountains of Wyoming, northern Colorado, the Panhandle, Nebraska. We'll have to watch out for that. And we're even seeing some severe storms back down into Arizona with all this monsoonal moisture, like the one that we have near Wilcox. This is already past Wilcox, but it's going to continue to travel near Highway 191. It's going to near the intersection of Highway 191 and Interstate 10, basically right now. The Benson-Steins Pass Highway and the, just looks like Highway 191 there is where that storm is right now. But yeah, again, it feels good to be back here. With some significant severe weather coverage. Obviously not because I like to see people in this situation, but just because it's nice to be helpful. So, we'll continue to watch this here. Hello, Storm Chaser 575. Let's go ahead and check out NATOcast for today. Last I looked, they had a 3% out for today. But it looks like at this point, NATOcast has this event still at a 3%. Okay, so this is a very interesting NATOcast outlook here that I'm going to bring up on your screen. So, screen mirror. Okay, so as you can see, we've got ourselves a few 2% risks here. We got one along the Colorado-Kansas state line, one along the Iowa-Missouri state line, and then one back up into portions of South Dakota. And they have a very small 3% risk out there for portions of South Dakota. I wish we could list some cities that are kind of out in this area, but we cannot, unfortunately. I guess we can kind of go ahead and zoom in on some of those areas in that general vicinity. So that's like the Chamberlain-Miller area, Huron, Mitchell. You guys have a 3% chance to see a tornado in your town today, according to the AI forecasting tool. Remember, SPC has us at a 2% over a large area. But yeah, interesting to note, as always. So, again, I mean, this is a pretty classic-looking supercell, honestly. Again, the main threat with it is going to be large hail and damaging winds, though. But while we're here, we'll go ahead and take a look at the HRRR outlook here. So we can see that as of right now, once again, I mean, this is really what's going on in the country. This was as of 1 minute ago, right? So, this is around what was happening 1 minute ago. Something similar to this, right? So we can see, actually, we've got quite a few storms down into the southeastern portion of the United States. Again, just those pop-ups could be strong to severe in some instances. We do have some stronger storms kind of along the Ohio River, actually. And some of those stronger storms even stretch back up into portions of Illinois and Indiana there, so that's something to watch out for. We'd have a cluster of big storms in northwestern Iowa that's mainly going to be a flash flooding threat, if anything, but maybe some isolated large hailstones. We got some storms back up here into Minnesota. Obviously, we got our ones in South Dakota here. And again, the HRRR is saying that these Kansas supercells should really get going here over the next couple of hours, and by 7 p.m., we could be dealing with a full-blown tornado threat for the Colby area, so we'll watch out for that. It continues to push those further eastward into more kind of north-central portions of Kansas over the next several hours after that. So we'll continue to watch out for that as well. Let's look at the NAM here so that we can kind of get a general idea of what's going to happen over the next few days. So, let's see here. Again, this is kind of what's going on right now. Right? Or this is what the NAM said would be going on at this point a few hours ago. and they got it almost spot on. It's pretty similar to what the HRRR was saying, but as we can see, as we go later into tonight, some of these storms actually do end off dying pretty quickly. Now, something interesting to note is that the NAM says that these supercells in Kansas will be a little bit kind of, more southeast driven here, right? And that actually may be why the SBC has done like a really weird move with this outlook here and kind of pushed it this little bit further out into portions of Kansas, because that supercell really could ride south of Interstate 70 along Highway 83 kind of, so we'll watch that. But again, some of these Midwestern / Southeastern storms, again, could be strong to severe over the next few hours. So watch out for that. By 11 p.m., really the only major threat that we're going to have to look out for is a damaging wind threat in the Midwest. And if we take a look at this, we can see as we go later into tomorrow morning, sorry, my thing's kind of loading pretty slow, but we can see that really dissipates. What is going on? I'm not doing that. Okay, we can see as we go into tomorrow morning, that kind of dissipates, but we are going to see some more storms down here into portions of kind of the Illinois, Iowa, Missouri tri-state region, right? But the main severe threat for tomorrow doesn't come until later in this evening, right? Or in the evening. Gosh, I can't speak. By 4 p.m., could be watching for a potential tornado threat here across portions of northeast Illinois and northwestern Indiana, and that'll continue kind of into this 5, 6, 7 o'clock hour there, but by 6 and 7 o'clock, it should be mainly damaging winds over parts of Illinois and Indiana, and again, we can't forget our friends out there in the northern plains. Could be talking about some damaging winds, large hail, maybe an isolated tornado threat, but the SPC isn't saying anything like that right now, but look at this. By 10 p.m. tomorrow night, we're dealing with a massive line of storms here across portions of southern Illinois, southern Indiana, eventually making it into western and central Kentucky. But again, major damaging wind threat there to look out for. And that continues all the way into Tennessee. All right, Nashville, you could get hit at like 3 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. So look out for that. We could see some wind damage out there for sure. Especially if folks aren't prepared for it. They're not preparing for it. It's late at night. But that kind of brings us into Tuesday, the midday hours. All right. And even kind of into Tuesday night here. So again, 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. supercells in the Central Plains, and unfortunately we can't really look any further out than that. So anyway, that was a lot of talking I just did. We're here. It was kind of anticlimactic. I made it sound like there was a point, or I was going to make like a point at the end of that, but I mean, that's just the run of the NAM there. Again, the NAM, one of our more reliable models that we can look out at for the short term. But again, these storms here in northwestern Iowa really look intense for a flash flooding threat. In fact, these storms impacted the Sioux City area, and they are reporting flash flooding in downtown Sioux City. And we have a flash flood warning in effect, so turn around, don't drown, driving on the roadways. Sorry, that was incredibly loud. Look at that storm structure. It's a beauty. But again, it's mainly heavy rain, some hail, and some wind to watch out for here in Iowa. I think the tornado threat overall is probably the lowest out of any of our storms for today. But again, NATOcast had this area, surprisingly enough, this section at a 2% risk, which is weird. But I guess they just think maybe the remnants of this, or maybe some resparking of storms later in the nighttime, could bring some supercells maybe to southern Iowa and northern Missouri and we get tornadoes, but I doubt it. Again, they painted it at a low risk. It's not like they had it at a 30% hatched risk or anything. It was a 2%, but still. Half of the earth is covered by water. Davis covers the other half because such a W. You know what? Speaking of water, we can talk about the water real quick. This potential tropical cyclone is freaking everybody out. All right, and I want to say there's no reason to be panicked because we are looking hundreds of hours out to forecast this thing. I don't know. The newest run of the GFS isn't completely done yet, but if we go ahead and look at the 12Z, the GFS was saying that we could see a potential tropical cyclone early next month, kind of make its way up here towards the Florida Panhandle, maybe bring some tropical storm force impacts, maybe some hurricane force impacts, and also the Pacific looks incredibly active, but we'll talk all about all that in the next Tropic Talks episode, which will be coming out within the next few days here. So, anyway. Oh, my bad, Kevin. I didn't mean to delete that. Yeah, it's definitely getting interesting, to say the least. In the tropics. So once again, if you're just now tuning in, we are currently covering severe weather across portions of Wyoming and South Dakota. Right now, we've got a few severe thunderstorms capable of producing damaging winds and large hailstones, mainly in eastern Wyoming and western South Dakota here to watch. And we're also watching some stronger storms back into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. But the St. Louis area, actually, we could end up seeing some flash flooding because over the past few days, it's just been bands and bands of this heavy rain. Really, that goes for anywhere in this general area: southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, southwest Indiana, and northwestern Kentucky. Flash flooding is a very real threat. This area has seen well above average rainfall recently, which normally would be good for this time of year, but it's getting to the point where it's almost a little too much. The remnants of Beryl left as much rain as we really needed for this area in one punch for a lot of folks. And obviously, in the summertime, we get these pop-ups here in the southeast and the Midwest, and it's creating all sorts of problems here in terms of flash flooding. So, anyway, again, we had that dam failure. How long ago was that? Like a week or two? Closer towards the... What town was it? Nashville, Illinois. CSU does have a large swath of wind for day 3. Again, days 2, 3, and perhaps day 4 are going to be the days to watch for, in my opinion. What's going on with all the deleted messages? Just spam and stuff like that. Alrighty. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these storms up here in west central South Dakota or northeastern Wyoming do get a severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll watch that. Serious flash flooding going on in the desert southwest, in the Four Corner States area. Especially in the bottom two, obviously, New Mexico and the Arizona there. I couldn't think. Brain fart. Looks like we may have some broad rotation here near McHenry, Kentucky. So watch that. Kind of in west central Kentucky. Probably not going to do anything, but something to watch out for. At least some damaging wind threat there, perhaps. So again, our storm here in South Dakota, the one that we're mainly watching, right, is kind of riding Highway 40 right now. Again, right now it's near the Hermosa, Ajax area, kind of past Ajax at this point, really. CSU does have a 2% for Kentucky and Tennessee. Okay. Well, there you go then. I mean, I really don't think that's going to end up doing much, though. I seriously doubt we see a tornado out here today. I seriously doubt it. But that could explain some of the broad rotation here. This week has been sunny. The week here has been wet. The next week is going to be sunny. Nice. I mean, obviously, Texas, another spot where we have plentiful rain. No sort of drought or anything ongoing there. Still got some storms in the area, in fact. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Oops. What am I doing? So yeah, we'll watch that near McHenry there. Florida also has a 2% in CSU, but it's southern Florida. Yeah, I think sometimes those kind of overdo it with some of our southeast pop-up storms. If you look at the storm near Belforth, it took a turn for sure. I think that's going to go tornadic. Near Belforth? Is that the Kentucky one we were just watching? Forch. South Dakota. Talking about this? One of these? I think these are just damaging wind and large hail threats. I really would doubt a tornado up here, but we can't rule it out, so we'll watch it. Yeah, it is cool to see what the AI thinks, but it's also reassuring to note one of the things that AI is definitely not better than humans at this far is weather forecasting. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Weather is just so complex, and there's so many factors. It takes that human thought process, real training, instead of just, lines of code. Or not code, but, you know what I mean. Play the radar. I mean, they're getting stronger, but they're not going to go tornadic. Again, like I said earlier, these could definitely go severe, but tornadoes are kind of out of the question up here. Yeah, there's still definitely a lot to learn in terms of forecasting weather. Even us humans don't know everything about it yet, so for us to teach AI, it's going to take a long time, and that's a good thing. On velocity, set the frames to 30. There's nothing going on with them. I've been watching them for a while. Again, they're getting strong with damaging winds and large hail, but tornadoes aren't in the picture. Yeah, I mean, they're going to form into a line, which, again, will bring a damaging wind threat. And that's part of the reason, well, that is the reason that we have the hatch risk and wind for place here in South Dakota. But it's not going to bring us really much of a tornado threat at all. Again, maybe later on in their lifetime we see a QLCS tornado. But that would be, again, further east. Again, NATOcast has a 3% out. SBC has a 2% out. So it's not like a super high chance or anything that we see a tornado today. But it's also not a super low chance. Just on the lower side of things. So we'll watch out, once again, for all that good stuff. So let's check out our Kentucky storm here. Not really rotating at all anymore. Again, it's very broad. It always was very broad, but it's just not really impressing me like it was for a little bit. I mean, it wasn't like shocking me, but again, it was just barely impressing me, if that makes sense at all. So, anyway. School starts for you August 14th. I think it's close to that for me. It did a storm split. By the way, new severe warning for Gillette, Wyoming, sorry. 60 mile an hour damaging wind gusts. So if you're in Gillette, make sure you are getting indoors immediately. I mean, they split, which created 2 cells, but still, that's not anything. Well, like, it's not going to be a tornado threat. go down to southern Arizona here. So these cells here look really low precip, but it's just because of all the mountains out here. So, what's the tornado threat for today? SPC has it at a 2% for a large area. NATOcast has it at a 3% for a small section of South Dakota, and a few 2% risks around the Central Plains. The only difference really is that the SPC one is connected into one risk, and also they only have it at a 2, not a 3, but the SPC doesn't do 3%, so... yeah, I think tomorrow could go 5%. If it does, it would be in the Midwestern risk, not in the Plains. The Plains make it a 2%. I think that's plausible and possible. I won't say likely, but it's possible. But the Midwest would be the one to have the higher tornado threat for sure, and a damaging wind threat, in my opinion. The Central Plains may have a greater hail threat, though, so we'll watch out for that. Or, sorry, the Northern Plains, not the Central Plains. What am I talking about? Yeah, Colorado State University, 5%. I haven't looked at it yet, but I trust Kevin. Afternoon thunder shower here in northwest Illinois, sitting on the porch enjoying the rain. I did the same exact thing earlier today. Well, there's no doubt that tomorrow the storms will fire. It's a question of where they'll fire, but we've gained confidence that they're going to happen. By the way, a 66-mile-per-hour wind gust was recorded 14 minutes ago, according to the Department of Highways, along Interstate 80 south of Hanna with our Wyoming storm. So they could upgrade that to 70-mile-an-hour winds, but at this point, if they haven't done it yet, they probably won't, because it's also weakening, it looks like. Yep, 3 cape will obviously be crucial in tornado genesis, obviously. That's pretty decent. It's, again, usually these summertime events, they're not a cape lacking thing. If anything, the reason we're not going to see tornadoes tomorrow, if we don't, would be for the shear. But the shear's decent, so it's not great, but it's decent, so we'll see what happens. So, looks like here in Georgia, we got some interesting storms we can look at. We'll bring that up there on your screen. No rain until Friday for you. That's got to be brutal with all this heat. Look how dark the clouds are there. Enjoying it while it lasts. Yeah, I get that. Lightning. Big flash of lightning. Yeah, but it's also probably going to create somewhat of a drought for your area if you already haven't been seeing rain. And, if it's on Friday, I'm sure there's not a lot of certainty on that. I haven't looked at Ireland's weather, but usually we can guarantee that somebody's going to see rain 5 days out or 6 days out. Again, we can give a probably yes or probably no at that point, but we can't guarantee anything unless it's obvious that somewhere's not going to get anything. So, yeah. Anyway. It's about 60 degrees there. You're here? Nice. Good to see you, Matt. Again, if you're just now tuning in, we are covering severe weather across portions of mainly South Dakota and Wyoming. We've got a couple of strong to severe storms in southern Arizona to watch, and some storms in the Ohio Valley to watch as well, for sure. On the left-hand side of your screen here, sorry, we have a camera pulled up from the greater northwestern Atlanta suburbs, near the Kensaw area in Marietta, of a storm rolling through northwest Georgia at the moment. You'll check the GFS and other stuff soon? Alright. Well, that went from a shower to a downpour quickly. Yeah, that can happen. That kind of happened to me earlier. Got some beneficial heavy rain. We had crazy storms last night. Got a couple of shorts out today from that storm. So if you want to check out that storm that I'm mentioning, go ahead and do that after the stream's over. But, I mean, those shorts are doing incredibly well, and I thank you guys so much for it. I guess there's only one short out from that shower right now officially, but the next one will come out in 37 minutes. I have it scheduled, but that one has over 300 views already, so that's pretty sweet. So thank you guys for that. Hadn't paid attention to the severe outlooks for a few days. It hasn't been anything wild. It really hasn't. Not compared to what it was a few months ago, anyway. Moisture tomorrow is at least temps over 80s to dew points over 70s. See, and again, that's, going to make our, severe weather setup out here very, very impressive for a lot of storms. And again, because it's going to be a linear threat, we're mainly going to be talking about damaging winds. But a couple of tornadoes cannot be ruled out either. Broken clouds maybe, but I think we'll still have a bit of fun. You mean sun? I heard there might be another named storm soon. Yes. We'll have more details on that in our next episode of Tropic Talks. And if... Okay, so... What am I talking about? The next episode of Tropic Talks will be coming out sometime within the next few days here. If it becomes a hurricane over the next week somehow, which I doubt it will do, then we'll have 2 episodes of Tropic Talks out this week. We'll have another one later in the week, and again, we'll have live streams if needed about potential Hurricane Debbie. Right now, the National Hurricane Center actually is not throwing a lot of confidence out for this thing. They're saying there's a 40% chance that it develops in the next 7 days. But I think as we get, further out, that chance will increase. Because I think overall it's much higher than a 40% chance. I'm sure the National Hurricane Center agrees with that. That we see anything out of that at all. We've had 3 named storms already, which actually is not a lot for this time of year. It's a little... It's average. We'll say that. I think it's average. The only reason this hurricane season has seemed crazy so far is because of Beryl. Beryl was an insane monster. Earliest Category 5 ever. And it left significant impacts on the Antilles, Southeast Texas, and caused multiple significant tornado outbreaks across its path. So... Again, the strongest of which being a EF3 tornado that hit Mount Vernon, Indiana. By the way, new severe thunderstorm warning. This is along the Missouri-Illinois state line for the greater northern portions of the St. Louis suburbs. This is for Alton, Upper Alton, East Alton, Wood River, and Roxana. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and nickel-sized hail. That is for portions of northwestern Madison County and eastern St. Charles County along Illinois and Indiana. Illinois and Missouri state line. We were just talking about Indiana. That's why I was thinking of Indiana. Yeah, once August and September rolls around, it's definitely going to get pretty wild for a little bit. But I think until then, we're going to have to wait for a while because the dust is still out there. And it's not quite as hot out in the Atlantic, in like the MDR as you might think. It's a little above average overall. Florida is baking, around the coast of Florida here is baking, but everywhere else is just 1 or 2 degrees above average, which isn't enough to make a huge difference in our hurricane season right now. But whenever La Nina is in full swing, the wind shear is going to stop we could have record high temperatures. It's going to be a massive problem. And again, you can quote me on this. We are going to have a historic hurricane season this year. We already have. I mean, I can't be wrong about that. It's not even like a question at this point. We've already had a historic moment this season with Beryl. Very historic. In fact, I'd go as far to say that we're not going to see anything like that again in our lifetime. We're not going to see a Cat 5 that early. At least not within the next couple of decades. So, that's just my opinion, but I think that's a good chance of it happening. Or not happening, I guess I should say. So, I think we're going to end off the stream here. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to like and subscribe. I want to thank you all for tuning in. It has been relatively inactive. If we do get a tornado warning or a destructive severe thunderstorm warning later tonight, I will be back here again. But for now, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.